You water them every day, you fertilize them, the plants grow tall and green and full of leaves. And then harvest time comes, and the tomatoes just don't deliver. Small fruit, cracked skin, flowers that drop before they ever set, or just a trickle of tomatoes when you expected an avalanche. Here's the truth most tomato guides never tell you. The difference between a disappointing harvest and an overwhelming one usually isn't about which variety you planted or how big your garden is. It comes down to a handful of small habits that compound over the season. Habits that most gardeners are either doing wrong or skipping entirely. In this video, we're walking through every major factor that separates struggling tomato plants from the ones that absolutely explode with fruit. Deep planting, pruning, watering rhythm, fertilizer timing, pollination tricks. And the final step, one most gardeners never think about until it's too late. One small change in how you grow tomatoes completely transforms what you harvest at the end of the season. And the last step we cover might be the most overlooked piece of advice in all of tomato growing. Before we jump in, drop a comment below. Tell us what country you're growing in and what's been your biggest frustration growing tomatoes. Tomatoes are the most popular home garden crop on the planet, and also one of the most frustrating because they're sensitive in ways most people don't see coming. But once you understand what they actually need, it changes everything. Let's get into it. Most gardeners plant their tomatoes the same way they plant any other vegetable. They dig a hole about the size of the root ball, drop the plant in, and fill it back up. And that single habit quietly limits the harvest for the entire season. Here's why. Tomatoes are one of the few plants that can grow roots directly from their stems. Those tiny hairs aren't just texture, they're potential root sites. Bury that stem underground, and within days it begins producing an entirely new root system. More roots means more water uptake, more nutrient absorption, a stronger, more stable plant that can support heavier fruit loads without stress. When you transplant your tomatoes, dig a hole deep enough to bury 2/3 of the plant. Strip off the lower leaves first. Any leaf that would end up underground comes off. Then set the plant in. Backfill and press the soil gently firm around the stem. What you're left with is a seedling that looks small above ground, but is quietly building an extraordinary root system beneath the surface. One mistake to avoid: don't bury a plant with disease on the lower stem. If there's any yellowing, spotting, or rot on the stem before you plant, address it first. You're burying the stem to encourage roots, not to hide damage. Within 2 weeks of planting, you'll notice something. The plant just looks more settled. The leaves are deeper green. The stem starts to thicken. That's the deep root system doing exactly what it was designed to do. And a tomato plant with strong roots is a tomato plant that produces. This next step catches a lot of gardeners off guard, and it quietly affects every pruning, fertilizing, and support decision you make all season. There are two fundamentally different types of tomato plants, and they need to be managed completely differently. Determinate tomatoes set all their fruit within a concentrated window, usually a few weeks, and then they're done. Varieties like Roma, Celebrity, and Rutgers behave this way. They grow to a fixed height, flower heavily, fruit all at once, and stop. Indeterminate tomatoes keep growing and producing continuously until frost kills them. Varieties like Brandywine, Cherokee Purple, Sun Gold, and most cherry tomatoes fall into this category. Why does this matter? Because aggressive pruning on a determinate tomato reduces your harvest. You're removing flowering wood that was already going to produce fruit. But on an indeterminate tomato, strategic pruning is one of the most powerful yield-boosting tools you have. Here's the rule. For determinate varieties, minimal pruning, remove only dead or diseased growth. Let the plant do its thing. For indeterminate varieties, manage the suckers actively. A sucker is the new shoot that emerges in the joint between the main stem and a branch. Left alone, each sucker becomes a full secondary stem and then grows its own suckers, and those grow suckers, until you have a sprawling plant with dozens of competing stems, poor airflow, and fruit that struggles to size up because the plant is spreading its energy in too many directions. Pinch suckers when they're small, 2 to 3 inches long. A quick snap with your fingers is enough. The plant redirects that energy to the main stems and the fruit already developing. One mistake to avoid: don't remove every single sucker on an indeterminate tomato. Most experienced growers leave the plant with 2 or 3 main stems. When you see a well-pruned indeterminate tomato for the first time, a clean main stem, a few productive side branches, clusters of forming fruit at every level, it looks almost sculptural. And the fruit it produces is noticeably larger and more consistent than an unpruned plant that's gone wild. Imagine a tomato plant that gets a huge drink of water on Monday, then nothing until Friday, then a heavy rain on Saturday, then dry again for 4 days. Inconsistent watering is the hidden cause behind some of the most common tomato problems gardeners encounter: blossom end rot, cracked fruit, blossom drop. All 3 are symptoms of the same root cause. The plant can't regulate water and nutrient flow because the supply keeps changing. Here's what's happening inside the fruit. Blossom end rot shows up as a dark, sunken, leathery patch on the bottom of a tomato. Most people think it's a disease. It's not. It's a calcium deficiency, but usually not because the soil is low in calcium. It's because inconsistent watering prevents the plant from pulling calcium up through its root system at a consistent rate. The bottom of the developing fruit gets starved. Cracking happens when a dry period is followed by a sudden heavy watering. The fruit skin has been developing at one rate, and then suddenly the interior expands rapidly. The skin can't keep up. It splits. The fix is rhythm: water deeply and consistently. For in-ground tomatoes, a deep watering 2 to 3 times per week is usually ideal in moderate climates. The goal is to keep the top 6 to 8 inches of soil consistently moist but never waterlogged. Mulch dramatically supports this. A 2 to 3 inch layer of straw, shredded leaves or wood chips over the root zone slows evaporation, moderates soil temperature, and keeps moisture levels more stable between waterings. One mistake to avoid: watering from overhead. Wet tomato leaves are an invitation for fungal disease. Aim water at the base of the plant. Keep the foliage dry. This one habit alone can prevent a season's worth of disease problems. There's a moment when you first pull a beautiful, heavy tomato off the vine and slice it open. Dense, rich, perfectly uniform. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens because the plant had consistent water from flowers set to harvest. Every drop of moisture contributed to that perfect fruit. At this point, you realize massive tomato harvests usually come from a few small habits repeated consistently. It's not magic. It's not complicated. It's showing up for the plant the same way, day after day, and letting that consistency compound into abundance. We're halfway through, and the next steps are where the real yield transformation happens. A lot of gardeners fertilize their tomatoes with a high nitrogen fertilizer all season, and then wonder why they have enormous, gorgeous plants with almost no fruit. Here's the problem. Nitrogen drives leaf and stem growth. It's essential, especially early in the season when you want strong, fast establishment. But if you keep hitting the plant with high nitrogen fertilizer once it starts flowering, you're essentially telling the plant to keep growing instead of producing. Tomato fertilizing has 2 phases. Phase 1, establishment. From transplant until the first flowers appear, give the plant a balanced fertilizer, something in the range of 10-10-10 or similar. This supports root development, stem strength, and early leaf production without pushing excessive vegetative growth. Phase 2, production. Once you see the first flowers opening, switch to a lower nitrogen, higher phosphorus and potassium formula. Something labeled as a tomato or bloom fertilizer, or roughly in the range of 5-10-10. Calcium is worth adding as a separate consideration, especially if you've had blossom end rot before. Crushed eggshells worked into the soil at planting time, or a diluted calcium solution applied to the root zone during the season, can dramatically reduce those end rot losses. One mistake to avoid: over-fertilizing. More fertilizer is not more harvest. Excess nitrogen burns roots, causes leaf curl, and creates exactly the lush, unproductive plant we're trying to avoid. Follow package directions and err toward underfeeding rather than overfeeding. A healthy tomato plant that's slightly hungry will produce more fruit than one that's been overfed. Feed on a schedule. Every 10 to 14 days during the growing season is a common rhythm. Write it down. Consistency here works just like consistency with watering. What you're building is a plant that knows when to grow and when to produce. That's the whole game. There's a specific kind of gardening frustration that only happens in late summer. You've got a massive indeterminate tomato plant loaded with fruit, heavy clusters, dozens of tomatoes sizing up beautifully. Support systems matter, and they matter more when you put them in early than when you scramble to add them late. A cage or trellis installed at planting time becomes part of how the plant grows. The stems learn to lean against it, weave through it, and distribute weight across the structure. A cage installed after the plant is already large often doesn't integrate the same way. You're forcing branches into positions they didn't grow for. For determinate varieties, a standard sturdy tomato cage is usually enough. These plants grow to a predictable height and don't need much more. For indeterminate varieties, you need more. Heavy gauge tomato cages. A stake and weave system. Vertical stakes between plants with horizontal twine running back and forth at regular heights. Or a trellis system using a fence, cattle panel, or purpose-built frame. Imagine a tomato plant properly staked and trellised in full production. The main stem is completely vertical, clean and thick. Branches spread out to either side, each one loaded with clusters of fruit at every node. The fruit hangs freely, catching sunlight on all sides, sizing up evenly. That's what good support builds. By mid-season, a lot of tomato plants start showing early signs of trouble. Yellow leaves climbing up from the bottom, dark spots on lower foliage, a creeping brown discoloration that spreads if left unchecked. This is usually fungal disease, early blight, septoria leaf spot, or one of several other moisture-related diseases that love warm, humid, still conditions. And the number one environmental driver is poor airflow. A densely planted tomato bed where leaves are touching, branches are crowded, and air can barely move between plants is a perfect environment for fungal spores to land, germinate, and spread. The leaves stay damp longer, the humidity between plants stays higher, disease moves fast. Airflow is the solution. Space plants appropriately. Most tomato varieties benefit from 24 to 36 inches between plants, sometimes more for large indeterminates. Remove lower leaves as the season progresses. A clean, bare stem for the bottom 12 inches of the plant significantly reduces soil splash, where rain or irrigation water hits the soil and carries spores up onto lower leaves. A tomato plant with good airflow looks different. The stems are visible. Light reaches the interior of the plant. There's space between leaves. Here's the final step, and it's the one that surprises people most. If you want a tomato plant to keep producing aggressively all season, you need to harvest consistently and aggressively. Here's why. A tomato plant's goal, biologically speaking, is to produce seeds and reproduce. When fruit stays on the vine past full ripeness, the plant interprets that as a signal that the reproduction mission is complete. It begins to slow flower production and redirect energy toward the existing ripe fruit rather than setting new ones. But when you harvest fruit at peak ripeness, or even slightly before, the plant reads a different signal. The fruit is gone. Regular harvesting keeps the plant in active production mode. It's one of the clearest examples of working with the plant's biology rather than against it. Pick tomatoes as soon as they reach full color and give slightly to gentle pressure. Don't leave ripe or overripe tomatoes on the vine. They're pulling resources and sending the wrong message. One mistake to avoid: waiting for every tomato to be perfectly ripe on the vine before picking. A tomato that's 80% ripe will finish ripening beautifully on a counter at room temperature. Pick it, bring it in, let it complete. The plant will immediately redirect that energy toward the next round of fruit. Timed fertilizing gets the plant to shift from growth to production. Strong support systems protect your harvest. None of these are complicated. None of them require expensive equipment or professional expertise. They're small habits, practiced consistently, repeated season after season. Great tomato harvests come from exactly that, attention to the small details that most gardeners rush past or never learn at all. There's nothing quite like walking out to the garden on a warm morning and picking a bowl full of ripe tomatoes you grew yourself. The smell of the vine on your hands, the weight of the fruit, the deep red, the orange, the dark purple of an heirloom variety catching the morning light. That's not luck. That's what these habits build. So here's our question for you. Which step surprised you most today? Or which one are you going to try first this season? Drop it in the comments. This community learns from each other, and your experience might be exactly what another gardener needs to hear. If this video gave you something useful, we'd love to have you subscribe. We post new content every week on tomato growing, container gardening, high yield techniques, and everything that helps you grow more food from the space you have. Until next time, keep growing, keep harvesting. May